Welcome to the F1 Blogs YouTube channel. Are you ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're going deep into the 2024 Formula One season.
Sounds good.
It might seem predictable with, the usual suspects at the top.
Right.
But trust me, there's more to it.
Oh, I bet. There always is. What kind of hidden stories and stats did you dig up?
We've got some fascinating nuggets that even the most hardcore fan might have missed. To start, just picture this. A record-breaking 24 races crammed into just 281 days.
Wow. That's intense.
It was the longest F1 season ever. A real marathon, not just for the drivers, but for the entire circus.
Yeah, the travel, the pressure, the constant work.
Yeah.
It must take a toll.
Absolutely. And amidst all that chaos, one driver managed to finish every single lap of the season.
No way. Who was it?
Oscar Piastri.
Really? That's impressive, especially for a rookie. Over 7,000 kilometers without a single DNF.
It makes you wonder, was it a deliberate strategy?
Or just a testament to his consistency and the car's reliability?
Good question. Maybe we'll find out later. But speaking of impressive feats, how about Fernando Alonso?
Ah, the ageless wonder.
At 43 years old, he wasn't just keeping up with the young guys.
He was beating them.
Right. Makes you think he's got some secret training regimen.
Or a stash of that difficult super tire compound.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But seriously, his performance this season shows that experience and racecraft still matter.
Big time. He was a masterclass in strategy and consistency.
Totally. And then, at the other end of the age spectrum, you've got 19-year-old Oliver Bierman making his debut.
Wow, a 24-year age gap between him and Alonso on the same grid. That's wild.
Talk about a clash of generations. You've got the veterans relying on their tactical brilliance, and the young guns all about raw speed.
That's what makes F1 so exciting, right? The mix of styles and approaches.
Absolutely. And speaking of speed, Lando Norris was on another level this year.
Oh, yeah, that pole position lap at Monza was insane.
An average speed of over 262 kilometers per hour.
I get chills just thinking about it. Pure car control at those speeds.
It wasn't a one-off either. He consistently had the best average starting position.
Even better than Verstappen.
Yep. Makes you wonder what their secret was.
Was it the car? His driving style? Some crazy setup tricks.
We need to go deeper. And don't forget about Piastri's top speed in Mexico.
Oh, man, 362.5 kilometers an hour. Try to visualize that. It's just a blur.
Hard to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But we'll get into the technical stuff behind those speed records later. For now, let's talk about some of the season's most memorable races.
Memorable races, huh? Well, the one that jumps out right away is that crazy Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, the hype was huge, and it totally delivered. A record 56 overtakes.
Can you believe it? Non-stop action from start to finish.
The complete opposite of Monaco, right?
Oh yeah, Monaco.
Only 4 overtakes the entire race.
Talk about a snooze fest.
It's amazing how much track design affects the racing.
Totally. Las Vegas had all those long straights, tons of passing zones.
Built for excitement.
Exactly. Monaco, on the other hand, it's like a winding maze.
Super tight and twisty. Overtaking is nearly impossible.
You said it. So track layout plays a role, for sure.
But what about the drivers?
Yeah, good point.
Were they just being extra careful in Monaco?
Maybe a bit. It often comes down to qualifying and tire strategy there.
Right. Nobody wants to risk a move that could ruin their race.
Exactly. But Las Vegas, it seemed like everyone was more aggressive.
They were going for it.
Pushing to the limit for those overtakes.
Which reminds me of another key element, the pit crews.
Oh yeah, the unsung heroes.
Red Bull's mechanics were insane this year.
Setting a new pit stop record in Shanghai, right?
Yep, 1.90 seconds. It's mind-blowing how fast they are.
It's all about precision and teamwork. Every move is practiced to perfection.
Tire strategy was so important this year.
Absolutely, and Red Bull nailed those lightning-fast pit stops, essential for their success.
You mentioned earlier that Spielberg and Silverstone saw a record 45 pit stops each.
Yeah, those races were wild.
What was going on there?
Well, tire degradation was a major factor at both circuits.
So more frequent tire changes.
Yep. But we also saw teams experimenting with different tire strategies.
Trying to get a tactical advantage.
Exactly. It's like a game of chess out there. Managing tire wear while outsmarting your rivals.
And that's where teams like McLaren really shone, right? They might not have had the fastest car, but their upgrade strategy was on point.
They really maximized their development resources, but it does make you wonder if they prioritized performance over reliability.
Interesting point.
I mean, Williams had a really tough year with all those car write-offs. Maybe there's a trade-off there.
It's a balancing act for sure. You want the performance, but you also need the car to last.
For 24 races, no less.
Exactly. And it's easy to get caught up in the tech and the stats, but let's not forget that Formula One is still ultimately a human endeavor.
It all comes down to the drivers.
They're the ones pushing these machines to the limit.
Dealing with crazy G-forces, making split-second decisions.
And battling fatigue over these grueling races.
It's incredible what they do.
We talked about the veterans like Alonso and the rookies like Behrman, but what about drivers like Charles Leclerc? He's kind of in the middle, right?
Yeah, the prime of his career, you could say.
He didn't win the championship, but his performance in the second half of the season was really impressive.
He was on fire. Racked up a ton of points after the summer.
Even though the title fight was out of reach.
Makes you wonder what clicked for him.
Was it the car, his mindset, his driving style?
It definitely showed his potential.
Absolutely. And it makes you think, how much of a driver's performance is tied to their mental state?
Oh, I think it's huge.
Their confidence, their ability to adapt, it all plays a role.
For sure.
And speaking of adaptation, let's circle back to that record-breaking season length. 24 races packed into 281 days.
Brutal.
How did the drivers handle it?
That's a really good question. I mean, they're constantly traveling, dealing with jet lag.
And the physical strain of racing at that level.
It's got to take a toll, both physically and mentally.
It's amazing how these drivers push themselves. But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the cars themselves, the tech, the innovations. What stood out to you this season?
Well, this year was all about pushing the limits with those new power units.
Hybrid engines.
Yeah. They're incredibly complex, combining the combustion engine with electric motors.
Like a science fiction movie come to life.
Totally.
Right.
And it makes for an amazing mix of power and efficiency.
And it definitely fueled those battles on track.
Oh, yeah. The engine manufacturers were constantly trying to outdo each other.
Every little bit of horsepower matters.
Absolutely. It was a constant back and forth, pushing for more power while also trying to improve fuel efficiency.
But raw power isn't everything.
Nope. Reliability is just as important.
We saw a few teams struggling with engine issues this year.
It's a tough balance, right? You need the power, but the engine has to be able to handle the stress of 24 races.
Speaking of tough balances, what about aerodynamics?
Oh, that's a whole other world. Those intricate wings, the diffusers, it's mind-blowing how much detail goes into shaping the airflow.
It's like sculpting the air itself.
Exactly. More downforce means better grip in the corners, but it also creates drag, which slows you down on the straights.
So it's about finding the right balance for each track.
Right. Teams are constantly tweaking those aero setups to find that sweet spot.
Now, this year saw some new regulations designed to improve the racing. Did they work?
Well, we definitely saw more overtakes.
Especially at places like Las Vegas.
Yeah, that track was built for overtaking with those new rules in mind.
So it seems like simplifying those aero designs did help.
It made it easier for cars to follow each other closely, which led to more overtaking opportunities.
So like the FIA is on the right track.
It's an ongoing process, though. Teams are always finding new ways to interpret and exploit those regulations.
It's that constant cat and mouse game between the rule makers and the engineers.
Exactly. And that's what keeps things interesting. F1 is always evolving, always pushing those boundaries.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dives into the 2024 season, what are the key takeaways for our viewers on the F1 Blog's YouTube channel?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there's always more to discover. Even in a season that seemed predictable, there were surprises, hidden stories, and amazing achievements.
We had record-breaking performances, intense battles, and those human moments that remind us what this sport is all about.
It's about passion, dedication, and pushing the limits of what's possible.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to remind everyone watching on the F1 Blog's YouTube channel to hit that subscribe button and share this video with your fellow F1 fans. We'll be back with more deep dives soon. But before we go, any final thoughts for our listeners as they look ahead to the 2025 season?
Well, we saw so many young drivers stepping up this year, and veterans like Alonso proving they're still a force to be reckoned with. Do you think we're entering a new era of Formula One? One where experience and raw talent will clash more than ever?
That's a great question. It's going to be fascinating to see how those dynamics play out. Until next time, keep those engines revving and stay curious. There's always something new to discover in the world of Formula One.